Welcome to Classic Game Room. What do you get your friend who's an NES snob that thinks they're too good to play Atari 2600? The NES gamepad that works on the Atari 2600, of course. Confuse and infuriate them with the power of Atari. Pop quiz! Which one of these is the NES controller and which is the Atari 2600 controller? It's insane because you actually have to look at the plugs to figure it out. That's right! What we've got here is a Nintendo controller that's been modified to play the Atari 2600. Which is crazy! That would be like playing Mario Brothers on the Atari. Which you can do. So is this thing some kind of a novelty gift day joke to impress your friends, or does it actually improve gameplay? Well, a little bit of both. A lot of us prefer gamepads like the Sega Genesis controller or the Nintendo gamepad to the original Atari 2600 joysticks, and as most of you probably know, you can use the Sega Genesis gamepad to play Atari 2600. But nobody will expect to see you using an NES gamepad because the Nintendo plugs are very different from Atari's. So not only does this thing work, but it also feels like you're breaking the law when playing Missile Command on your 2600 with an NES gamepad. Take that, thermonuclear war. The power of Nintendo defeats you. How about Ms. Pac-Man? Yep. It works pretty well on that too. You can even play one-handed, something that's difficult to do with the original Atari joystick. The fact is, I greatly prefer playing most Atari 2600 games with a gamepad. And while the Sega Genesis controller requires no modifications to play on your 2600 and they're readily available and really cheap to find, the Atari NES controller has a certain wow factor. Kind of like playing an Anthony Daniels autographed Atari 2600 game, The Empire Strikes Back. The power of Nintendo, Atari, and Star Wars combined? The force is strong with this thing. How about my Steve Perry and Bob Rice autographed Journey Escape Atari cartridge? Oh yeah. Don't stop believing how awesome the Nintendo Atari controller is. Look at the performance! Thanks to the high-quality Nintendo D-pad, I can effortlessly dodge barricades, groupies, and drug dealers on my way to the Journey spaceship, which is headed to a Boston concert. These are things you just can't do with the standard, old-fashioned Atari 2600 joystick. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be nearly as cool. Thanks to our friend Thomas from Lake Grove, New York for sending this controller to the show. Quit taking my money! It's my hard-earned cash. Stupid managers and groupies. Get the f*** out of my way. I have no idea where you get one, but it's super cool. However, you know what would be even cooler? If somebody would make an NES controller that plays Atari 5200 games. Because that controller sucks. Thanks again to Thomas and all the great people who autographed my Atari games. It's the Atari 2600 Nintendo controller from Nintendo that plays Atari 2600 games. That's probably not really from Nintendo, but it could be.